Hi everyone, welcome back to Talk Regulatory to Me. We're your hosts. I'm Zora.
And I'm AXA.
Today we're going to talk about our jobs, our roles and responsibilities in regulatory, what we used to do in our old jobs, and what we currently do today. So go on, AXA.
So, as you know, my first job in regulatory was at Teva Pharmaceuticals. So that was eye opening for me in terms of regulatory knowledge. I think I learned most of my knowledge from there. I had a
Mhm.
really good team. So what we generally did, so we did a lot of DCPs and MRPs, so decentralized procedures and mutual recognition procedures. So we'll talk about the type of
Yeah.
procedures in another video, and we'll go into detail about them. So just for the time being, we're just going to discuss an overview of what we did. So those were the main types of procedures that we would do. We do initial submissions as well, so taking a new medication onto the market and the different information documents that are involved beforehand before getting it onto the market. I
Mhm.
think that was the interesting part
Yeah.
for me. And
So what was
what
the
else
job
did you?
role?
Oh,
People
should
will be
say
interested. People will be
yeah.
interested in that, so they know how to
Yes.
apply.
Regulatory Affairs Associate, and in Teva they had like three brackets.
Yeah,
So you would start off with one, two, and three, but I jumped into three
3.
straight away, which was quite cool
Yeah.
because I didn't have any regulatory experience. So that opportunity is there, I think, if you've got other experience. And I think
Mhm.
because I had my lab based experience, that probably helped
I think if
from
you've got a pharmaceutical
background.
background and you have
Yeah,
some knowledge about what the department does, I
exactly.
think people are willing to give you a chance. I think more, you'd go into a lower, not a lower role, but a more entry level role
Yeah.
if you don't have any pharmaceutical experience at all.
Exactly. So straight out of uni, you might go in
Associate
as a type one.
one,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. But yeah, it was great. So we worked on a range of different types of medicines, and I was in the BD team, which is a business development team. So Zora, you were in the OTC
In-house.
in-house team. Yeah, she'll talk about that. I don't really know what she did. But with us, we would be communicating with the CMOs directly, and sometimes they would be creating the dossier or module 3 section of the dossier for us and then sending it through. Other times we would actually write specific sections of the module 3 just depending on whether the CMO we were working with gave it to us, or sometimes they would give it to us and it was all wrong and we would end up rewriting it. So yeah, it was really fun, it was really interesting, and that was my first role in regulatory. Zora, do you want to talk about your first role and then we can develop
Yeah,
today?
yeah. So, like I said in the last video, my first job was at AstraZeneca. It wasn't a graduate job per se, because it wasn't like they have graduate programs and this wasn't like a graduate
Yeah.
program. They had set up this team, or they needed this team to submit license renewals.
Okay.
So I can't even remember the name of the team, but basically there was about 10 about 10 people that started kind of at the same time,
Okay.
and maybe 7 of us were part of this separate team that would be responsible for like submitting license renewals, just to take off some burden from the other teams.
Yeah.
And then a few of the other guys, they had gone straight into like the therapeutic teams. But it was quite nice because we were all relatively new to regulatory.
Yeah.
So for me, it was my first job. I think for a couple of other people, it was their first job as well.
Yeah.
We came in trying to help other members of the larger team with like smaller tasks that they were unable to do, mainly license renewals, and
Okay.
um it was around the world, to be honest.
That's good.
We did like the rest of world, we did the US, we did Russia, we did a few EU
Mm-hmm.
things. So that was nice. And then after a couple of months, I moved into one of the therapeutic teams.
Mm-hmm.
So we had, I think it's like 2 products that we were working on. And then we were just, as a whole team, we were working on those 2 products, and different people would do different things. And it was post approval CMC is what we were doing. So we were mostly submitting variations,
Yeah.
EU variations, and then some other like initial submissions to the rest of world.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, that's all I knew because I was there for just shy of 2 years.
Okay.
And when I moved, I'll just briefly say what I'm doing
Yeah.
now. It's completely different.
Okay.
AstraZeneca is a large company. It was a great company to work for. I
Yeah.
loved it. The only reason I couldn't stay on is because I moved from Manchester to London. The amount of work that you do in a big company compared to I would say where I'm now, it's like a medium-sized
Yeah.
company. A medium to large size kind of company is crazy. I learned a lot at AZ, but that I learned as soon as I came to where I am now
Yeah.
is just,
Not comparable.
yeah, it's not. I learned so much.
Yeah.
But before I get into what I do on a day to day,
Yeah.
you had another job
I
between
did.
where you are now as well, haven't
Yeah,
you?
and I think I fully agree with you. I always tell everyone I learned everything from Teva.
Yeah.
I think it was such a good company to work for, and the knowledge that you gain when you're in medium-sized companies, you get exposed to a lot more, and there's a lot more challenging tasks that you get exposed to. So if you are going to start out, go to a medium-sized company rather
Mm.
than a larger company, because I always say that you get lost as a number
Yeah.
in a bigger company. But yeah, after Teva, the reason why I left Teva was because COVID hit,
Yeah,
and
yes, yeah,
yeah,
it was in lockdown, wasn't it?
so COVID hit, and I was living in a one bed flat with my husband in North London, and we just got sick of it. So it was like, I think it was we were in there for at least a year, I think, during lockdown,
Yeah.
and then it came to a point where we wanted to buy a house at one point as well, and we were like, we're paying dead money, we're stuck in this one bed flat, we can't even go outside into a garden.
Mm.
And it was really, really taking a toll on us. It just so happened at that point we got pregnant, and then we kind of reevaluated life, and we thought, right, we don't know how much longer lockdown's going to go on for. My in-laws offered us to stay with them because they've had like enough space for us to be able
Mhm.
to move in with them. And so we just decided, right, okay, it might be good for a few months. We'll save up a bit of money and we'll just move there for a little bit, and then we'll come back to London. That didn't happen, obviously.
We're still waiting for it to come back to London.
So yeah, we moved to Wales in Cardiff, and yeah, we didn't think it was going to be that long. Initially, we thought we would have our baby. We had a daughter, and we thought we would just save up that money and then eventually buy a place in London. But
Mhm.
with COVID hitting, all the prices of the houses shot up. We couldn't afford it any
Mm.
longer, so we ended up buying in Wales, and we're still here. So that's the reason why I left
We
Tevas,
bought a
because
house in COVID as well. It was
yeah,
cheaper.
well, cheaper to now, but back then
Yeah.
the prices are
Yeah, and I
extortionate.
think, I mean, off topic, but it was at the point where the mortgage rates were like
Yeah,
literally about to go
yeah,
up.
yeah.
And
That's why we did it.
yeah, and I think we were really lucky in the loan the loan to value
Yeah.
ratio, whatever it was, whatever we went with, we were the last people to apply for that
No
one
way.
because then they stopped it and then they only offered like a
Higher.
high, you had to have a higher deposit
Yeah.
to be able to get the mortgage.
Oh God.
So as soon as we applied, I think our mortgage advisor rang and said they're not doing it anymore. But because we had already put in our application,
You got
we
lucky.
got lucky.
Oh. I think that was a really hard time for a lot of people,
Yeah.
especially buying houses. But yeah, that's sadly I had to, after my maternity ended, I had to leave. We were going back into the
Yeah.
office 3 days a week, and I obviously couldn't do that because I was in Wales. So I had to leave, and I got another job. Then I moved on to another company, which was only an hour away from me, so it was fine. And it was only 1 day a week in the office, so that was manageable for me.
That's good.
Yeah, because with having a young daughter as
Yeah.
well, I didn't want to be in the office 5 days a week, and being at home with her with that first kind of period of our life was just really invaluable for me,
Yeah.
because waking up so early in the morning, going into the office, by the time you get home, you're shattered, you're cooking dinner, and then you barely get time with your kids and your spouse.
Yeah.
So working from home for me was really important.
Just going back into the office
Yeah.
after being at home for, what was it, 2 years or
Yeah.
something, like on and off 2 years. It's so hard to
So
go back into
hard.
the
I
office,
know.
even like I could never imagine going back 5 days
No
a
way.
week because you're so used to being at home,
And it's just
cutting out the commute time and everything else. Yeah, it's a shock to the
exactly.
system.
I think it's like the more sleep that you get as
Yes.
well.
Yeah.
Not having to get up. If you don't feel like getting ready in the morning,
Yeah.
you don't need to get
Nope.
ready. The amount of times I sat in my pajamas and taken meetings.
Same.
And it's fine, you're getting the work
Yeah.
done, so I don't see the issue.
You
But
save a lot of time on your commute,
and
you're not
money
as
as
tired,
well.
money
Yeah.
as well, petrol money, train tickets, everything has gone more expensive.
I
So
know.
by staying at home, I don't know if it's cheaper because you're still using electricity and stuff, but
But not just that. Well, we get paid for it. Well, I get paid for it.
okay.
now.
But
Yeah.
you're fully remote
Yeah.
company, aren't you now anyway?
But the probably the one downside is the lack of exercise.
Oh, okay.
Because when you're commuting, you're actually getting up, you're walking around the office, and
Mhm.
you're doing things. Whereas right now, I don't exercise as much as I should. I bought a
Yeah.
walking pad though,
Yes, you have.
so that's quite good. But
Yeah.
sometimes I forget to use it. But yeah, back to the day job. So there I did. It was more. We did EU, but it was more national applications as
Hmm.
well, and it was your day-to-day medicines that you would use. We did work on technical transfers, so transferring from one manufacturing site to another manufacturing site and all of that, all of the details that come along with it. So we'll probably talk about this in detail in another
Hmm.
video, but just a brief overview is you when you're doing technical transfers, you're changing every aspect of the manufacturing, right? So you have to revalidate your equipment, revalidate your methods if required, if you're not meeting the specifications, and there's a whole system that comes along with it. So that was really interesting. I did a couple of tech transfers there, and then I got a job where I currently am right now. And here we do again a lot more national applications, more UK and Ireland based, but we do Europe as well, and we work with the global team. My interests still do lie within global, but I
Hmm.
think it's sometimes difficult to get presented with that opportunity. This job's actually really interesting because it gives me the opportunity to travel as well, which is great. So
That's
it's
good.
a yeah, the headquarters are in Germany, so every so often we get to go there. We get to go to the UK headquarters, I
Hmm.
guess, which is in Maidenhead. And as I said, I work fully from home, so it's nice to have these kind of trips to go see people, interact, communicate. We had a conference in Finland a few months
Oh
ago.
yeah.
That was really nice. I've never been there before, and it was good. So yeah, I think with this job, there's everything that I kind of would have wanted. Is very relaxing in terms of with pharma or with regulatory in general. I think the work life balance is amazing.
Hmm.
You do not get overworked, and a lot of people are quite conscious not to put extra work on you. They want you to feel healthy, and I think within pharmaceutical companies that's what they promote, isn't it? Just a healthy living and be secure in your job. So because they know, like, as if we get stressed out, that stress is going to go into our work,
Impacts. Yep.
and we need to full attention to detail when we're doing our work. So we need to make sure that our head's screwed on, we're not making any mistakes, and I think they appreciate that. They give us that space and time to be able to just kind of relax and switch off. Because as soon as 5 o'clock comes, I'm logged off and
Yeah.
I don't answer my phone. I mean, if I need
Nice.
to, then I
Yeah, yeah,
would.
yeah.
But
That's different.
and I think that's a good thing about pharma is that they give us the trust, so we give that respect back. So if someone did call me at 8 o'clock at night and say, "Like, can you jump on and we need to sort this issue out?" I'd happily do it because
Hmm.
it's not a norm. It's just a one occurrence.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's the kind of day to day roles that I'm kind of doing right now.
Hmm.
What about you, Zora? Like, how are you getting on?
So I work in I always have to think about the name of the team. It's like new submissions.
Yeah.
Generic new submissions as a senior manager, regulatory
Yeah.
affairs. So
Congratulations.
thank you very much. It's been over a year, but okay.
I know, but I think you've done really well to get to where you are right now
So
as well.
yeah, so
So
we've I started off as an associate three, the same as AXA.
yeah,
Then I got promoted to manager and then promoted to senior manager as well.
I can't believe it's been a year.
It's been, I think it was September 23.
No way.
So it's been a year and a half now.
That's mad.
Yeah, it's gone really
I know.
quick. Responsibilities kind of stayed the same, but just
Mm,
more added on.
yeah.
So I work within the EU, like I said, new submissions team. So we submit initial applications mainly through the DCP, so decentralized route to European countries, European
Mm-hmm.
markets. I'd say 40 to 50% of my day
Yeah.
is looking at initial submissions, preparing responses,
Yeah.
preparing the initial application, reviewing any documents, helping out my line reports
Yeah.
as well, with her initials, any kind of variations that we need to submit for our products that have been approved. That kind of takes up half of my working day.
Yeah.
And I think the other half is more regulatory strategy.
Yeah.
So looking at the products which are up and coming, which are currently in development,
Mm-hmm.
helping out the sites, with any kind of European input that they need.
Yeah.
So, how to spec or what they should set certain specification limits
Yeah.
to, what to take into consideration if if they've been looking at things with another country's guidelines in
Yeah.
mind, they need to now reevaluate and think about the EU. So that's where
Exactly.
kind of where we come in, strategize the best way to submit, the best places, the whole kind of regulatory strategy.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that when I was at AZ, obviously I was very, very junior then anyway.
Yeah.
But I wasn't involved in any of that, didn't see any of that. So as I've grown in my experience, obviously now I'm a bit more exposed to things like that as
Yeah.
well. And when I was at AZ, like I said, I was doing rest of world things as well. So we were
Mm-hmm.
looking at Russia, China, Japan, Peru, all of these other countries.
Yeah.
And the way that their regulations are set up compared to what I do now, which is just EU, it's crazy to
The
think that
difference.
people, some people are in the regulatory world working for all of these kind of markets,
Yeah.
and you have to think about things so differently. Whereas in the EU, you've got your guidance,
And that's it,
you
pretty
follow
much.
your guidance, you
Yeah.
follow the regulation, you follow, the legislation, and that's it.
Yeah.
There's some things which are open to a bit of interpretation, but as an overall, whatever is said is said. You need
Yeah.
to follow that. So I like that kind of structure.
I've not really done rest of the world,
Yeah.
so is it very much like you can maneuver the regulations to work with what you want, or
I'd say some countries are a lot more stricter
okay,
in the documentation that they need.
right?
Some have a different way of presenting it as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's in Russia
Mm-hmm.
where they have their dossier is called like the normative document.
Okay,
So everything in your dossier should be in the normative document,
right,
and it's like a different kind of formatting.
right.
In the US, I think the way that I've not worked with the US for an initial, but I think the way that you present the initial application is slightly different as well.
Yeah, I've seen a couple.
And then the variations as well, they do annual reporting.
Yeah,
So on the
that's some.
birthday,
Oh,
yeah. So on the day that the procedure was approved is
birthday.
it's
I like
the
that.
FDA's birthday. But
It's
yeah, they're
quite
very
fun.
different, and
Yeah.
even this is probably going into things that we'll talk about
Yeah.
in future series. But the FDA might have some guidance, and the
Yeah.
EMA might have different guidance, and they'll be different. So when you're working on something which is like a dual development, so something that's being developed with the aim to market that in the EU and also in the US, there's some things that have to be different.
Yeah.
So within the FDA, just as an example, some products in the USP, so the pharmacopoeia
Yeah.
for the US, they have certain methods.
Mm-hmm.
You have a certain dissolution method for a
Yeah.
certain product. But in the EU, not everything has like a monograph in the European Pharmacopoeia.
Right.
So you can't just, oh yeah, the FDA have said that, so we're just going to follow
Yeah.
that. You still need to justify that.
Yeah.
So it's that kind of thing where you have this dual development in place. You really need to focus and look at it with your EU kind of glasses on,
Yeah.
which I think is really interesting.
It is, it's fun, but then equally that's when sometimes you end up having two dossiers, right, for
Yes,
the same product.
yeah.
Because in some instances you can't have, like as you've mentioned, FDA might have the USP, but within Europe you don't have a pharmacopoeia that you can follow, so then you might have to do an in-house method
Yeah.
or whatever it is, or there's certain excipients that can be used in the EU which can't be used in America. That's quite common,
Yeah.
especially the other way around, actually can be used in America and
But
can't be used in
yeah,
the EU.
yeah.
And so the formulation will be slightly different. The drug as a whole, I guess, is the same, but the formulation is slightly different. And so two dossiers would need to be
But I can
maintained.
say as well, there is differences between
Yeah.
like the FDA, as just as an example, we're saying FDA and Europe.
Yeah.
But also, I don't work as much with the UK because I'm
Yeah.
mainly focused on the EU. But I think there are some differences with the MHRA as well.
Yeah.
The MHRA, so the UK national agency, they can ask you questions that a European authority might not.
Yeah.
Because,
And I think being closer with the MHRA now, in my current role, you realize like how many questions they do ask and how strict they've gotten over the years. Because I remember when I used to work just with Europe and UK, it wasn't that like a few years ago, UK wasn't, they didn't really have as many questions as they do now. And it might just be because these are more national applications rather than with decentralized procedures where you have your RMS, and then UK most likely is going to be a CMS rather than RMS. And they
we'll
would
talk
just,
about what RMS
yeah.
and CMS means in the future.
And CMS generally just follow, it's like, think of it as like a herd with sheep. You've got the RMS, who's the herd, and then all the sheep just follow along. And being probably say that in the nicest way
Yeah.
possible. I don't want a regulator to come
No.
after me. But that's probably the easiest way to describe it. But yeah, I think working with the MHRA now, they're really strict with a lot of things. They ask for justifications for absolutely everything. They want evidence for everything. Whereas when I remember I used to work with EU predominantly, you just need to provide a valid justification, and a lot of the time they'd be happy with that. But now they want evidence, so they always want you to back up your claim, which I'm not saying that we didn't do beforehand, but I think now they want it a little bit more. So yeah, I think a lot of what you've covered, again, is what I also kind of do, apart from the initial submissions, which I really miss. I think I'd love to get back into doing that because I think that's where the strategy is, right? It's
Yeah,
fun.
yeah, yes, yeah.
So hopefully, if anybody wants to give me a job, joking. Yeah, so I think initials are always fun because you're looking at the background into drug development process. You're trying to coordinate different CMOs. You're trying to make sure that your clinical trials have been performed correctly. Again, you're trying to coordinate countries when you're doing DCPs and making sure you're abiding by whatever guidelines. And when we talk about Europe, just to clarify, EMA, so it covers all the countries within Europe. So Denmark, France, Switzerland, not
No,
Switzerland,
not Switzerland.
Germany. I'm not going to name all of them because I probably can't even remember half of them, but that's what we talk about Europe. So Europe,
EU member states.
yeah, member states more than it just being all of Europe, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. So yeah, I think we've covered what we generally do from a day-to-day basis. If you've got any questions, let us know in the comments and we can go into more detail and we can make further videos if required. So we will be making a lot more videos on the terminology. So you've probably picked up on a lot of words that we've used: DCP, MRP, national procedures, EU member states,
Variations.
initial submissions.
Yeah.
We're going to be going into a lot more details about what these things actually mean. So stay tuned for them. So Zora, is there anything else outside of regulatory that you do in your day-to-day job?
So yeah, there's a lot of things that we do that are non-project related, just to kind of help the ways of working within the team, I think. You know, improving on processes, introduction of new systems, and trying to help out with all of those. One thing as well that is probably really important to both of us is I'm part of the diversity and inclusion group, and I think you were as well before you left. Part of the race work stream, and I think it's important, you know, for all companies to have this kind of group to celebrate their diverse workforce. The company I work at is a global company, so we work with people from all across the world. Within our offices, we have people from all across the world as well. So it's really important.
Everywhere, right?
We've got sites everywhere, yeah. So it's really important to like kind of make sure people feel like they're valued and make sure they feel important. And I think that's something that we want to talk about, you know, our own experiences as ethnic minorities, as women working in a corporate world, and
Muslims as well. Actually, that's one thing that I think you don't find. Well, my experience. Well, I said we'll do another talk on this, but briefly speaking, our experience is you don't see many Muslim women of color in regulate or in pharmaceuticals. And this is kind of one of the reasons why we've started this podcast as well, is to show you can climb up the ladder as a Muslim woman as well. And it's not as difficult, yes, but we want to help other people get into the positions that we're in because we found it difficult when we first started, and trying to kind of create an opportunity for other ethnic minorities as well.
And I think because, I mean, I think it's the same with you, that were you the first person in your family to go to uni? And you have older sisters. Yeah. And I was in my family the first one to go to uni, and I'm the older sister, so yeah,
had
that's
to
why.
be had to do that.
Yeah, my sisters or my brother, if you're watching. I'm joking. I'm joking. They all love to be compared.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah, I think, you know, as Pakistanis as well, right? Because a lot of the people that I've worked with are, you know, either from India, maybe from Bangladesh.
That's actually quite true. I've not thought about that.
I mean, the only Pakistani person I've worked with in this company is you.
That's so. You were the first Pakistani that I worked with. Actually, you're right. Because in the lab, I don't think there was any Pakistanis there.
Yeah,
there was a couple of Indians.
In AZ, I think. Oh, if I don't remember somebody, somebody's going to get offended. But the only Pakistani woman.
Yeah.
I think there's only one.
No way.
There was other Pakistani guys that I used to work with there.
But how sad is that you're like
Yeah.
struggling to remember if
Yeah.
there were any other Pakistanis there?
No, there was only one Pakistani woman.
Yeah, and with our kind of degrees,
Two, sorry, I remember the other one. But we were quite a big group.
Yeah.
And now I am the only Pakistani in the building.
No way.
Yeah, because it used to be me and you. We have other Muslims.
Yeah, but
I mean, we have four Muslims.
Oh no, she's Bangladeshi, isn't she?
Yes.
You know
Nargis, if you're watching, hello.
I remember you.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, that's mad actually. Yeah, and even my company, the second company that I was in after Teva, one of my really close friends now, actually, she was the only Pakistani, me and her. And then the company I'm in right now, I'm the only Pakistani.
Yeah.
That's mad.
My friend at where I am now, she's Mauritius.
Yeah. Hi, Felina.
French Mauritian.
But yeah, so I think for us it was really important to show diversity and be part of that conversation, to help others know that they can feel safe in pharmaceuticals because we're here.
And yeah, I mean, it's something that's it's always nice to see people that are similar to you in the kind of job roles that you want to aspire to do, kind of thing.
You only ever see white men in leadership positions, right? So we just want to show that we are capable of getting to those kind of positions as well, and educate other people. They might not be ignorant, but the more so they just are uneducated. So it's more what we want to do is educate everyone on ethnic minorities and what we're capable of doing. I know we shouldn't have to do this, but it's the situation that we're in right now. So I think stay tuned for that video, because I think that would be a really good one. If you've got any comments on anything that we have discussed today that you want a bit more information on, leave any comments today on the video. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and also follow us on TikTok at Talk Regulatory to Me, where we'll be uploading a lot more videos and sharing our fun side of TikTok.
Yeah.
Well, see you on the next one.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.